guys. So today I want to share a story with you that's very personal to me. This leadership story has a lot of lessons that both myself and the person involved, I believe we both grew from this. I know I certainly have. This was at a time when I was new to the role of general store manager in an environment that was broken on many levels, in an environment where I represented change and the entire population in that store was resistant to me because of what I represented. And it took a lot of time to build trust. So there was this young man, and I won't mention his name, who was caught up in the streets. And, the pants, coming to work with the pants below the waist, very aggressive walk, and giving management a hard time. So this young man was on borderline of being let go. He was like really walking a fine line. And I would try to connect with him on his level because I seen something inside, but I felt he was masking it. Now I didn't have to, because at my level, I'm required to lead my leadership team and give them the tools to be able to effectively lead their teams. But what I recognized was my team was having a hard time with a lot of characters. And they weren't prepared at the time. They would get there, but at that time they weren't. They would avoid or ignore what they would see. No fault of their own. That's how they were guided. That's besides the point. So one day, to my surprise, this strong, tough young man comes into my office crying. I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't know what. I've never seen this side of him. It took me by surprise, but I didn't react. I needed to understand what was happening. So basically, he spilled his heart. He laid it out on the table. He was afraid that two things would happen to him. He'd either go to jail or lose his life because of his involvement and in the streets and how he handled things was through aggression. Now, I'm not a therapist. I wasn't pretending to be. In the building, the operating structure was there was no HR in your building, so you had to deal with those things and then bubble it up to your district manager, who would bubble it up to a regional HR manager. So at this time, I didn't feel there was anything needed that I needed to do to bubble anything up. I just needed to fact find and understand why he felt this way. So in our conversation, I asked him about his father because he was currently living with his mom, and his mom and his father had separated a long time ago. And his father lived in another state in Florida. So I asked him to tell me about his father. And I asked, would it have been possible for him to go and stay with his father for the summer? Clear his mind, reset, do some soul searching. He was nervous. But I did say, before you reach out to your dad, understand this. And I asked him if he ever seen the movie Boys in the Hood, where Lawrence Fishburne was overprotective of his son for a lot of good reasons. And he said, yes. I said, well, you're going to a stranger's home. He might be your dad, but You haven't seen him in years. If he does say yes, you're going to have rules. You're going to have a curfew. He's probably going to expect you to get a job for the summer, do some chores, whatever it is. And that street mentality has to be left in the streets when you go there. Your pants has to come up, they have to come up to the waist. And you have to be respectful because he's has a woman in his life and he's has a new life and you're practically a stranger. And you're a young man. Can you do that? He says, yes. He said, yes. So he left my office. He thanked me. He came back a week later, excited, but worried. And he said, my dad said, yes, I can stay with him for the summer. But what about my job? And I said, don't worry about it. Your job is secure. Go. When you come back, we'll have a place for you. He was surprised by that. In fact, my management team was surprised by that. So that's besides the point. And I said, but I need you to do some homework for me. And he said, what is it? I said, go and spend that time with your dad. Go do some soul searching. Figure out what's going to be different when you come back. And then I need you to define integrity for me. So go out there, do your thing, and when you come back, let's just talk about what it means to you, the word integrity. Fine, he leaves. I told the team, they think I'm crazy. They thought we should get rid of him. Why am I saving the job? I didn't allow them to fill the job. I was just trusting my instincts. Summer goes by, he comes back. Walking straight. Respectful. Pants at his waist. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. He's excited. And at the time, I didn't know if he would have taken me serious. I didn't know he would take me seriously. But he came back and he's excited to tell me everything about his experience. And so we sat in my office and he's just raving. The biggest smile. I mean, the most heartfelt smile. And then he says, are you ready? I said, ready for what? He says, my homework. I get goosebumps thinking about it now. I was so impressed. And he just, for 10 minutes, explained what integrity meant to him. And what he's learned about his experience. And I learned a lot about me in that moment listening to him. And whatever was happening, that just was like the highlight of my day. So then at the end of our conversation, he says, hey, how do I grow within this organization? Boom. Another whiplash, right? Like, whoa. And I said, well, that's a question you need to ask your manager. And he looked at me. I said, because you have a tarnished relationship with the management team. And it's those leaders who decide who is next in line, who has potential, who should we invest in. And you've left a bad taste when you left in their mouth. So you have to win that team over. Because I respect them enough not to overrule them. I intervene if I feel that there was a poor judgment made. But I'm going to give them the respect, just like I gave you the platform. So you need to meet with them, first your manager, and then the managers, because when your manager's off, they take over. And figure out what is it that you need to do differently and what do you need to stop doing that was hurting you before. So he went on and did that. A week later, he comes to me. Now the managers are coming like, what did you promise him? I was like, I didn't promise him anything. I just asked the young man to go and speak to you guys and that you guys will determine what the next steps are for his development. Uh, I'm just sitting here on the sidelines spectating. So he comes back to me. He tells me all the things that he learned about what he was doing that was hurting him and what the expectation is of him or was of him. And I said, all right, but that takes a lot of commitment and on your part. And so I asked him, I said, all right, do me a favor. The next 30 days, think about that word commitment and what it means to you. And let's talk about it in 30 days. So this became a practice for us, a routine. And I didn't realize, I just felt I was doing what's expected of me, is to lead with empathy, to lead with purpose, with clarity, and to provide a platform where everybody has an opportunity to be able to shine. The difference is they have to make the decision whether or not they want to. I'm just there to provide a platform and the tools and information. So after a couple of months, the managers they're talking about him all the time for the right reasons. And then several months go by, and I think it was about 6 months, and the management team comes into my office as a collective and say, we believe he should be considered for the supervisory position that you have open. And so I asked him what changed. And in unison, they said he changed. I said, did he? Was he the only one who changed throughout this process? And they all looked at me like I was crazy, like they always did. And they said, and then one of them said, we let down our walls because we refused to see him the way you saw him. And we just started seeing him for his contributions rather than our opinions. That's my dogs. Rather than forcing our opinions or our preconceived notions about him or holding his past against him. Because we all have bones in our closet. It's what we do with that, and if we learn from that, and we can't keep holding things against people. And in business, that seems to be a standard where you do one thing flawed, and that's what you're known for. And it's hard to lose that and that's a different story. But anyway, so he took the necessary steps, and he was promoted, and the store team is talking about, they're all talking about him, and he has purpose. He walks with a pep in his step. So I didn't realize how much of an impact he had on me. And I gotta fix the levels on this mic. I didn't realize until we have our annual, it's like an associate appreciation event, luncheon, where we take the associates that are like 5 years, 10 years. We take them to a restaurant. We have an award ceremony. They get certificates and gifts. And he was one of them there. And I had to present him with a certificate. And as I start talking about him, I can't complete a sentence because I start crying. And I give him his certificate, and he decides that he wants to tell everybody how much of an impact I had on him and what I mean to him. And it made it even worse. I think we both were just like these big guys just bawling. And I hugged him tight. If I had a son, that's exactly how tight I held him. And sometimes we don't recognize the impact that we have on others. But people they recognize when you truly care. They recognize when there are no ulterior motives other than to help them become a better part of them. And he made me a better man, a better leader from that experience. As I learned how much I've impacted him. So, managers out there, supervisors, I know there's pressure. But without your team, there's no business. Take the time to invest in your team. You will definitely grow from that experience. And they will make sure that they don't let you down because they know you have their back. That's the crazy and telling less. Remember, your future is defined by your thoughts and your actions. Give a thumbs up if you appreciate this. Subscribe to the show. Let your friends and family know about this. If there's a topic you want me to cover, if you're struggling with a specific situation, let's talk about it. Have a blessed day.